Mothers of fussy babies at higher risk of depressive symptoms. It's no secret that fussy newborns can be especially challenging for parents already facing physical and mental exhaustion from caring for a new baby. But now science backs up the impact on parents. The less soothable the infant, the more distressed the mother. Mothers of highly irritable infants experience greater depressive symptoms, according to new University of Michigan-led research. The nationally representative study, which included data from more than 8,200 children and their parents, appears in Academic Pediatrics. The study is also believed to be the first to explore whether the degree of a baby's prematurity in combination with infant fussiness may influence the severity of maternal depressive symptoms. Researchers found that mothers of very preterm, fussy infants born at 24 to 31 weeks had about twice the odds of experiencing mild depressive symptoms compared to moms of very preterm infants without fussiness. However, mothers of fussy babies born moderate late preterm 32 to 36 weeks gestation as well as mothers of full-term infants were about twice as likely to report moderate to severe depressive symptoms as moms of less irritable babies born at the same gestational age. We found that maternal depression risk varied by gestational age and infant fussiness, says senior author Prachi Shah, MD, a developmental and behavioral pediatrician at UMCS. Mott Children's Hospital and an associate research scientist at Center for Human Growth and Development. Mothers of fussy infants born late preterm and full-term are more likely to experience more severe levels of maternal depression than mothers of fussy infants who were born more preterm. These findings reinforce that all mothers caring for babies with more difficult temperaments may need extra help managing the emotional toll, she adds. Early screening for infant fussiness may help identify mothers with depressive symptoms in need of support, but may be especially important for mothers of infants born mildly preterm, in whom the symptoms of depression are more severe. Shaw notes that while very preterm infants have higher morbidity than babies born later, the perinatal care of infants born very preterm may actually help buffer against more severe maternal depression. Very preterm infants are often cared for in a neonatal ICU setting where part of the specialized care includes guidance focused on the vulnerabilities associated with preterm birth. As parents transition home, they often receive an enhanced level of postnatal support and developmental follow-up, including referrals to early intervention programs, home visiting and subsequent care in neonatal clinics. The additional support and services provided to families of very premature children help prepare parents for the potential challenges associated with caring for a preterm infant and may help mitigate the risk for maternal depressive symptoms, Shaw says. However, she notes that mild depressive symptoms may progress into more severe depressive symptoms, and should also be addressed as early as possible. Additionally, researchers found that maternal characteristics associated with prenatal stress and socioeconomic disadvantages, such as lower income, unmarried status and smoking were associated with greater odds of both mild and moderate severe maternal depressive symptoms. Asian and Black race were also associated with greater odds of moderate severe depressive symptoms, whereas Hispanic ethnicity was associated with lower odds of maternal depression. Authors say this raises questions regarding the role of culture as a potential risk or protective factor in the development of maternal depression. The study included data from the Early Childhood Longitudinal Study, birth cohort. Maternal depressive symptoms were assessed through self-reported questionnaires at the baby's 9-month visit. The study adds to previous research suggesting that mothers of more irritable infants report significantly less confidence and more stress than mothers of less fussy infants. Pediatricians and providers should pay close attention to mothers who describe difficulty soothing their babies, Shaw says. Early interventions may help reduce the risk of maternal depression that negatively impacts a child-parent relationship and that may be harmful to both the health of a mother and child. Does story time with an e-book change how parents and toddlers interact? Picking what book to read isn't the only choice. Families now make it story time. They must also decide between the print or electronic version. But traditional print books may have an edge over e-books when it comes to quality time shared between parents and their children, a new study suggests. The research, led by University of Michigan CS. Mott Children's Hospital and involving 37 parent-toddler pairs, found that parents and children verbalized and interacted less with e-books than with print books. The findings appear in journal Pediatrics, which is published by the American Academy of Pediatrics. Shared reading promotes children's language development, literacy and bonding with parents. We wanted to learn how electronics might change this experience, says lead author Tiffany Munzer, MD, a fellow in developmental behavioral pediatrics at Mott. We found that when parents and children read print books, they talked more frequently and the quality of their interactions were better. The parent-toddler pairs in the study used 3 book formats: print books, basic electronic books on a tablet and enhanced e-books featuring additions like sound effects and animation. With e-books, not only did the pairs interact less but parents tended to talk less about the story and more about the technology itself. Sometimes this included instructions about the device, such as telling children not to push buttons or change the volume. Munzer notes that many of the interactions shared between parents and young children while reading may appear subtle but actually go a long way in promoting healthy child development. For example, parents may point to a picture of an animal in the middle of a story and ask their child, "What does a duck say?" Or, parents may relate part of a story to something the child has experienced with comments like, "Remember when we went to the beach?" Reading time also lends itself to open-ended questions, such as asking children what they thought of the book or characters. Munzer says these practices, involving comments and questions that go beyond content, are believed to promote child expressive language, engagement, and literacy. Parents strengthen their children's ability to acquire knowledge by relating new content to their children's lived experiences, Munzer says. Research tells us that parent-led conversations is especially important for toddlers because they learn and retain new information better from in-person interactions than from digital media. However, such practices occurred less frequently with electronic books, with parents asking fewer simple questions and commenting less about the storyline compared with print books. The study suggests that electronic book enhancements were likely interfering with parents' ability to engage in parent-guided conversation during reading. Munzer adds that nonverbal interactions, including warmth, closeness and enthusiasm during reading time, also create positive associations with reading that will likely stick with children as they get older. Authors recommend that future studies examine specific aspects of tablet book design that support parent-child interaction. Parents who do choose to read electronic books with toddlers should also consider engaging as they would with the print version and minimize focus on elements of the technology itself. Reading together is not only a cherished family ritual in many homes but one of the most important developmental activities parents can engage in with their children, says senior author Jenny Radesky, MD, developmental behavioral pediatrician at Mott. Our findings suggest that print books elicit a higher quality parent-toddler reading experience compared with e-books. Pediatricians may wish to continue encouraging parents to read print books with their kids, especially for toddlers and young children who still need support from their parents to learn from any form of media. Common cause in sudden death syndromes, sudden infant death syndrome (SIDS), and sudden unexpected death in epilepsy (SUDEP) are syndromes that share many medical similarities but whose physiological causes are poorly understood. An opinion article publishing March 21 in the journal Trends in Neurosciences suggests that the inability for an individual to wake up when their CO2 blood levels rise, likely due to a faulty neural reflex, may be a shared cause for incidences of death in both disorders. If someone's airway is blocked with a blanket, for example, they are unable to expel CO2, which causes their CO2 blood levels to rise. Normally, this triggers a series of reactions that cause the individual to wake up and either reposition themselves so that they can breathe again, or cry out for help, like in the case of a baby, says author Gordon Buchanan, an associate professor of neurology at the University of Iowa. However, in instances of SIDS and SUDEP, evidence is beginning to suggest that elevated CO2 doesn't trigger this wake-up response like it should, which can ultimately result in death. Why a person would fail to wake up from increased CO2 is not fully understood, but a potential explanation is that a malfunctioning serotonin receptor in the midbrain may be responsible. Serotonin neurons in the medulla are involved in regulation of breathing, and we think the ones in the midbrain are involved in regulating a person's ability to wake up, says Buchanan. In instances of SIDS and SUDEP, autopsies frequently reveal that there are abnormalities in the individual's serotonin system in the brain. It is very possible that there is a direct path by which CO2 is sensed by serotonin receptors in the midbrain, and when there is too much CO2 present, the brain reacts by waking up the individual, he says. The existence of this direct pathway is important because it could drive future treatments. However, applying this information to create preventative therapies for these syndromes is still in the works. In addition to validating that SIDS and SUDEP are caused by an inability to wake up because of a defective CO2 system, a safe and reliable way to test if a person has dysfunctional serotonin receptors needs to be developed as well. Currently, such determinations are possible only through autopsies. In the meantime, parents or caregivers for infants or people with epilepsy should employ the same preventative measures that have been recommended, and largely successful, for decades. For infants 6 months and younger, which is the population most susceptible to SIDS, parents should put babies on their backs to sleep. At that age, they can't really roll, so they should stay put through the night, Buchanan says. Further, not putting plush toys or blankets in the crib and dressing the baby in tight-fitting clothing are other guidelines to follow. As for people with epilepsy who may be prone to SUDEP, which tends to be people who have nighttime seizures, they can also try to sleep on their backs, although it's less likely that they'll stay like that throughout the night since they can roll, says Buchanan. And in both cases, using a baby monitor to keep an eye on the individual can be helpful. Study highlights power of play through simple games and day-to-day tasks. Parents can help their children learn self-regulation, a skill considered essential for success, a University of Otago, New Zealand, study has found. Lead author Dr. Dion Healy, of the Department of Psychology, says self-regulation is a key early developmental skill that predicts a wide array of life outcomes. Self-regulation is essential for school readiness and success, as you need to be able to sit still, not blurt out answers, persist with tasks, manage frustrations, and give and take in social relationships. We also know that early self-regulatory skills are predictive of adult outcomes. The Dunedin longitudinal study has shown that poor self-regulatory skills at age 3 predict a wide array of adverse adult outcomes, including higher rates of incarceration, poorer physical health, higher unemployment rates, and mental health difficulties. Therefore, if we can find ways to improve self-regulation in preschoolers, we can alter the life course trajectory for many individuals, she says. The number of preschoolers with behavioral difficulties, including hyperactivity, inattention, and aggression, is on the rise, but current treatments, including medication, have their limitations and are not effective for all children. New Zealand's current gold standard treatment for these children is the Positive Parenting Program, PPP. It works to improve self-regulation by providing clear and logical consequences to guide behavior, and uses techniques such as quiet time and time out to allow children space to self-soothe. In the study, published in Scientific Reports, Dr. Healy trialed an alternative intervention based on structured play. Enhancing neurobehavioral gains with the aid of games and exercise. Engage was found to be equally effective in managing children with difficult behavior, and complemented current treatment options. Children learn self-regulation through play. In structured games, they need to wait their turn, plan their next move, focus on the ball, and manage frustration when things don't go their way, Dr. Healy says. Engage involves parents playing a range of common games with their children in a structured way, for 30 minutes a day. Games can include puzzles, musical statues, hopscotch, blocks, and skip rope. 60 families with children aged 3 to 4 took part in the study and were randomly assigned to undergo the PPP or Engage intervention over 8 weeks with a follow-up after 12 months. Overall, Engage was found to be as effective in improving children's behavior as PPP. Reductions in hyperactivity, inattention and aggression, to within the typical range for their age, was evident post-intervention, and maintained for 12 months afterwards, according to parent reports. Our results indicate that parents spending regular one-on-one time playing with their young children has the same positive effect on children's behavior as using behavior management techniques, which have a long history of being effective in managing child behavior. With Engage, we now have an additional treatment option for young, at-risk children that is enjoyable, low-cost, easily accessible, and associated with long-term maintenance of treatment gains. It's good to have a choice of equally effective options, as what works well for one family may not work as well for another, Dr. Healy says. An example of the program in action is a game participants played called Animal Speeds. Children would engage in various activities, such as dancing or moving around the room, at various speeds based on what animal name was called out. Cheetah mode was fast, giraffe mode was moderate speed, and tortoise mode was really slow. Then when they are out and about as a family, parents were able to just say tortoise mode when they wanted their child to slow down. They found this worked really well and helped manage their child's behavior very effectively, whereas in the past they were constantly telling their child to slow down with no success.